The galaxy lied to you. For decades, we have been forced to watch the falling bodies of the Jedi and feel pity. We see the smoke, we hear the screams, and we call it the ultimate betrayal. But your eyes are deceiving you. What looks like murder to a single cell is salvation for the whole body. Forget the politics, forget the Sith. Order 66 was not an act of evil. It was a biological necessity. Order 66 was not betrayal, it was release. It was the violent eruption of pressure so immense, so long suppressed, that when it finally broke free, it had to consume everything in its path to save the integrity of the universe. This was not a moment of political treachery. It was the breaking point of a biological system stretched beyond its absolute limit. To understand why the Jedi had to die, you must first understand the nature of the pressure. Imagine the galaxy not as a collection of planets, but as a single massive living organism. For 1,000 years, this organism was sick. The Republic, which was supposed to be the circulatory system of civilization, was clogged with the cholesterol of corruption, bureaucracy, and greed. But the true sickness lay in the heart of the organism, the Jedi Order. They were supposed to be the guardians of flow. They were supposed to listen to the will of the Force and allow life to move. Instead, they became a dam. They built a massive dogmatic wall against the dark side, believing that by blocking half of existence, they were creating peace. But you cannot block a river forever. The water does not stop coming just because you built a wall. It builds up, it rises. It creates pressure. For 1,000 years, the cosmic pressure of the Force pushed against the Jedi's dam. The stagnant waters of the galaxy turned toxic. The balance was lost, not because of the Sith, but because the flow had stopped. Beneath the surface of this stagnation, the clone army was created. We look at the clones and we see soldiers. We see men who were friends with the Jedi, who suddenly turned on them. We call it a chip in their brains, a tool of slavery, but look deeper. In the biology of this galactic organism, the clones were not soldiers. They were white blood cells. They were the immune system, generated by the galaxy itself to deal with a critical infection. The inhibitor chip was not a mind control device in the traditional sense. It was a biological programming code. It was a hard-coded imperative that overrode personal loyalty in favor of systemic survival. The system knew that the Jedi had become the cancer. The Jedi had become the blockage that was killing the host. And so the immune system waited, silent, dormant, waiting for the signal that the infection had reached a critical mass. When the order came, it was not a choice. An antibody does not choose to kill a pathogen. It does not feel guilt. It does not feel sadness. It simply executes the function required to keep the body alive. The clones turned on the Jedi not because they hated them, but because the biological imperative of the Force demanded that the blockage be removed. The dam had to break. The violence of that night was not the violence of murder. It was the violence of a fever. When a human body fights a deadly virus, it raises its temperature. It burns, it destroys healthy cells alongside the sick ones. It is chaotic, painful, and destructive. But the fever is not the disease. The fever is the cure. Order 66 was the galactic fever. It was the moment the galaxy's temperature spiked to burn out the infection of the old Republic and the stagnation of the Jedi dogma. To call this betrayal is to misunderstand the scale of what happened. Betrayal implies a rupture of trust between individuals. Anakin Skywalker did not betray Obi-Wan Kenobi. The clones did not betray their generals. This was a rupture of reality itself. The Force does not care about your friendships. It does not care about your moral high ground. It cares about flow. And when the flow is blocked for a millennium, the release of that blockage will always look like a catastrophe to those standing in the way. Think of a forest fire. To the trees that burn, the fire is an apocalypse. It is the end of their world. But to the forest as a whole, the fire is a necessary mechanism of renewal. It burns away the dead wood. It clears the brush that chokes the soil. It releases nutrients back into the earth so that something new can grow. The Jedi Order was the dead wood. It was an ancient rotting forest that refused to die, blocking the sun from reaching the ground. Order 66 was the lightning strike that started the fire. The destruction of the Jedi Temple was the clearing of the canopy. Yes, it was brutal. Yes, it was tragic for the individuals involved. But the Force operates on a timeline of eons, not lifetimes. It was willing to sacrifice 10,000 wizards to save the soul of the galaxy. And what rose from the ashes? The Empire. We see the Empire as evil. We see it as tyranny. But in the context of the surgery, the Empire was the cast placed upon a broken bone. The galaxy had just undergone a massive traumatic medical procedure. It could not return to freedom immediately. It needed structure, it needed rigidity. It needed the iron grip of order to hold the pieces together while the healing process began. Anakin Skywalker as Darth Vader became the surgeon who kept the wound cauterized. He was not a villain reveling in chaos. He was the instrument of this enforced order. He hunted down the remnants of the infection, ensuring that the stagnation could not take root again. He was the guardian of the scar. The lesson of Order 66 is not about the treachery of clones or the manipulation of Palpatine. It is a lesson about the cost of resistance. The Jedi resisted change. They resisted emotion. They resisted the natural balance of light and dark. And because they resisted, the Force pushed back. If you hold your breath, eventually your body will force you to exhale. It will spasm, it will convulse, but it will force the air out. Order 66 was the galaxy finally exhaling after holding its breath for 1,000 years. It was the sound of the dam breaking. It was the sound of the ice shattering. So do not mourn the fall of the Jedi as a crime. Mourn it as an inevitability. Mourn the arrogance that made it necessary. But recognize it for what it was. It was not the end of the light. It was the release of the pressure. And without that release, the galaxy would have died a slow, frozen death in the grip of a peace that was never real. The Chosen One did not bring a blessing, he brought the fire. And the fire, in its own terrible way, is the purest form of cleansing.